This is a business environment and ethical practices lecture. And in today's lecture, we'll be talking about economic growth and development. The main topics which will be discussed in this lecture are importance of economic growth, determinants of economic growth, and cost of economic growth. Importance will look into what are the main factors which make economic growth very vital. Long-term growth of a country has a positive impact on national income and the level of employment, which increases the standard of living. It also leads extra tax income for government spending, which can also develop the economy. And economic growth also helps in reducing poverty, but this cannot occur without economic development for sure. Economic growth is must because if the economy is not growing, that means that factors of production are not being utilized properly. The output of goods and services is not growing, which is very vital for the well-being of any economy, and it will lead to certain factors which can put the economy in despair. For example, if the growth is not taking place, unemployment might increase. Rate of crime will increase. Government, since it won't be able to earn more, it won't be spending more, which in turn can hamper the so many areas which are essential for the well-being of economy. For example, infrastructure development. Government might not be able to invest good amount of money in healthcare system. It might not be able to supply or to provide certain services like public transportation and all. And altogether, it will be disastrous. So economic growth must take place. For low developed economies or third world countries, what we call them, it is a very uh, important thing, and it might be very difficult for them as well. But eventually, it has to take place. Otherwise, the living conditions within the country will only deteriorate. Let's have a look at the key factors which leads to economic development. First, economic factors. Natural resources. Natural resources are very important, and it has two dimensions. First one, if a country is good with natural resources, it will be able to produce certain goods or which it can exploit and utilize within the country. Second, it can also create a very good pace of economic growth by exporting these natural resources. For example, Gulf countries, most of the economic growth that has taken place in Gulf region is because of natural resource oil. So we can always determine or can always consider natural resource as a very important factor for economic growth and eventually for economic development. Second, capital formation. It is very must the flow of capital in the economy should be very healthy. Only then economic development and economic growth can be ensured. Size of the market. If the market size is good, consumption patterns are positive and growing, there are very high chances that economy will grow at a good pace, and eventually it can lead to economic development. Structural changes. India before 1991 was a closed economy. Lot many lot many companies or segments were restricted. After opening up, we saw a flood of foreign entities coming into our country, and the gains are mutual. They are gaining, of course, from the Indian market, but Indian economy is also getting benefits from it. So structural changes will have to be done. Then financial systems. Sound financial systems and sound financial markets are very much required for economic growth. And not only sound markets and systems only, they should be monitored in such a way that they don't become the reason for any economic uh, hamper. Marketable surplus, if it is there, yes, undoubtedly it will be very beneficial. Marketable surplus basically means that the country is producing something that it can easily provide to its citizens, and then it is left with some surplus amount or some surplus quantity which can be further exported or can be stored for the future. Foreign trade, uh, no economy can grow within itself. Undoubtedly, if an economy, a country wants to grow, it will have to join hands with other countries. So foreign trade is very much required. And last but not least, economic systems. Right economic systems, economic policies must be in place in order to make any country or any economy a attractive destination. Then coming to the non-economic factors like human resource, that human capital we talk about is very essential. India, a classic example, we have that demographic advantage over other countries. Then technical know-how, undoubtedly, there have been a number of countries which are very small in size, but due to technical advancements, they have marked a very bright spot in the on the world map. For example, Japan. Japan is third largest economy in the world. Then political freedom. Political systems and political arrangements are a key catalyst in economic growth and development, because ultimately these political systems give rise to right economic policies, foreign trade, and everything. Then social organization. Undoubtedly, independent social organization and right social environment is very much required for economic development. Corruption-free administration. Although it is almost impossible to make the administration completely corruption-free, but the degree of corruption depends, the economic development depends a lot on the degree of corruption. If corruption is too much, economic growth and development cannot happen. Like when we see the case of Venezuela. Venezuela has the largest oil resources in the world, but due to political instability and this corruption-oriented governance, they are an underdeveloped nation so far. Desire for development, it is very much required. And it also stems from the political ideology. If we again look into the Gulf region, certain countries like Saudi Arabia have done fairly well, while on the other hand, certain countries are still struggling because of the disturbances there. Then moral, ethical, and social values. It undoubtedly plays a very important role. Although it cannot be quantified, but it is very much required. If we look at economies like Japan, Singapore, they have been very attractive destinations for for the companies all over the world because of the ethics and moral values which they find there, and that social value element which is very intact. Casino capitalism and patrimonial capitalism must also be looked into. Casino capitalism is basically wherein high risk and high gain tendency is there. Although it can backfire as well, but it can turn out to be a good proposition at times. Other key contributors in economic growth. We have discussed earlier that economic growth is vital for economic development, and economic growth primarily looks into the quantified things, elements like GDP. On the other hand, economic development looks into qualitative measures like life expectancy, education, standard of living, and everything. So here we'll be talking about primarily about economic growth. First, new or better economic resources like Venezuela, crude oil, South Africa, gold, Gulf, again oil, and it can turn the entire economy into a very modern and very attractive destination. Growth in labor force, uh, undoubtedly, China is called to be the factory of the world. India has been a very uh, uh, favorite destination for certain domains of work because of the kind of labor which is found here. For example, in IT services, lot many companies all over the world they outsource their processes to Indian IT firms or Indian BPOs. Then superior technology. Japan, South Korea, these countries have made good economic growth on the basis of superior technology. Increased specialization undoubtedly uh, can make the economy grow with leaps and bounds. Example, Germany, like high performance automobiles, they are world leader. Switzerland, dairy products and all. Increase in aggregate demand. If it happens, it can also lead to economic growth. For example, raising demand for high-speed internet in India. So these are certain characteristics, or I would say factors, main contributors, which are actually responsible for economic growth. Everything has its own pros and cons. So does the economic growth. Here are certain issues or certain costs that an economy might have to pay for economic growth. First is environmental cost. Increased production is often accompanied by pollution and other negative externalities. An adverse impact on the environment is often associated with rapid growth in developing economies, like what we have seen in case of US, China, India. The carbon emissions or the air conditions have gone from bad to worse. Rising income equality, one of the key issues in capitalism or money-driven economies, that disparity between rich and poor may go up. Rapid global transmission of diseases. This we are living in the era of globalization, and this connectivity or what we call the world as a global village can lead to problems like rapid global transmission of diseases, like what happened in case of COVID-19. Then inter-country tensions. Undoubtedly, economic growth or the tendency to grow the economy can result in favorable or positive relation with other countries, but it can also create tensions because everybody is running behind economic growth and nobody wants to lag behind. And last but not least, risk of higher inflation and higher interest rates. So the basic solution is the government should have proper systems, proper checks on the economic uh, rundown in order to ensure that everything is going on smoothly. Market forces are given due importance, but the economic sanctity must be maintained. Thank you.